My wife, Claire, died in an accident. While sorting through her things, I found the deed to a house. When I stepped into that sprawling suburban home, the shock was so profound it felt like the world had tilted off its axis. On the wall hung a family portrait of her, her first love, and a pair of cherubic twins, a boy and a girl. On the desk was a handwritten note. I stumbled out of the room, my only thought a white-hot, blasphemous urge to go dig up her grave. But the rage was a physical thing. I coughed, a coppery taste filling my mouth, and my vision swam to black. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the 7th year of our marriage. "Ethan, wake up. You're going to be late." The familiar voice, laced with a familiar weariness, buzzed in my ear. I shot upright. The face that filled my vision was bare of makeup, framed by the strings of an apron. Claire, my wife. She was holding a spatula. She was alive. I wasn't in a funeral home sorting through her belongings. I wasn't in that luxury home I never knew existed, staring at a picture of her with another man and their 2 children, the rage choking the air from my lungs. I raised a hand and pinched my own arm. Hard. Pain. Sharp and real. This wasn't a dream. The calendar on the wall clearly marked a date from 10 years ago. The 7th year of our marriage. This was the year I was still a nobody, a struggling novelist, paying our bills with freelance gigs while my manuscript collected dust. She was a bookkeeper at some small firm, haggling over the price of groceries to save a few cents. We lived in this tiny 1-bedroom apartment in a rundown part of the city, a place that leaked in the summer and was drafty as hell in the winter. It was laughable, utterly, cruelly laughable. In the life I remembered, she died in a car crash. I was destroyed. It was only later, going through her estate, that I discovered her secret life. A multi-million-dollar house, a walk-in closet overflowing with designer bags and couture dresses. But the most damning piece of evidence was that photo. Her, nestled against her college boyfriend, Leo, a blissful smile on her face, flanked by their 6 or 7-year-old twins. And the note on the desk had shattered what was left of me. I'm so tired. I can't live this double life anymore. If I could do it all over, I never would have chosen this path. Can't live this double life anymore. Never would have chosen this path. For years, she had played the part of the perfect frugal wife. All the while, she was using God knows what money to build a secret life with another man, a secret family. And I, like an idiot, had spent half my life feeling guilty, thinking she'd sacrificed everything to be with me. Now God, or whatever was out there, had sent me back before the tragedy. Claire, this time, I won't make it so easy for you. You love pretending to be poor, don't you? You love pinching every penny. I'm going to make you take every last cent of your hidden fortune and spend it on me. I'm going to make you feel what it's like to have your heart bleed. What's wrong with you? Spacing out, Claire waved the spatula in front of my face. Get up and eat. I get paid today. I'll pick up a nice steak for dinner. That same dutiful wife routine. I laughed coldly to myself, but on the outside, I just acted groggy like I was still half asleep as I slowly got out of bed. Honey, I said, wrapping my arms around her from behind. I rested my chin on her shoulder, my voice a low rasp. You're so good to me. Her body went stiff for a second and used to this kind of spontaneous affection. I know. Go brush your teeth, she said, nudging me away. I could feel it. Not a flicker of genuine emotion from her. Perfect. Let the games begin. Over a bowl of bland oatmeal, I brought it up, trying to sound casual. Hey, Claire, my phone's been acting up again. It barely holds a charge. I was thinking. Her spoon paused midway to her mouth. We both used these dinosaurs of smartphones, freebies that came with some ancient cell phone plan. The screen on hers was a spiderweb of cracks she'd never bothered to fix. In my last life, I'd mentioned getting a new one, and she'd shut it down immediately. It works, doesn't it? Don't waste money. You need to save up for when your book gets published. I've been so moved back then. Now, I just wanted to watch her squirm. Is that so? She looked up at me. All right, I'll go with you this afternoon to get a new one. A grin tugged at my lips. Hook, line, and sinker. I put on a show of being considerate. We don't need anything fancy. Something for a few $100 will be fine. I just need it to... Why get something for a few hundred? She cut me off, her tone flat. If we're replacing it, let's get a good one. I saw the new iPhone 14 Pro Max is out. It's fast. It'll be better for your research. I nearly choked on my oatmeal. The iPhone 14 Pro Max? The top-of-the-line model cost over $1,500. Was she insane? I studied her face, searching for any sign of regret, any hint that she was joking. Nothing. She just ate her oatmeal calmly, as if she were talking about the price of milk. She had no idea I'd been reborn. She thought I was the same clueless, devoted husband who knew nothing of her secrets. Her being so agreeable had to be a trick. She was placating me, and later she'd come up with an excuse. The store was sold out. There was a problem with her debit card. I couldn't wait to see what little performance she had planned. Okay, I agreed instantly, a wide smile spreading across my face. Whatever you say, honey, let's hit the Pro Max. I made sure to emphasize every syllable. Claire's eyelid twitched. Huh, that stings, doesn't it? And we were just getting started. That afternoon, I put on my best shirt and let Claire lead me into the fanciest mall downtown, the kind of place where the air itself smelled like money. She walked with purpose straight into the gleaming Apple store. I had my script ready. The second she tried to back out, I make a scene, humiliate her in front of everyone, tear that phony mask of hers to shreds. Hi, welcome. How can I help you? A cheerful employee asked. Hello. We'd like to see the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The one with the most storage, Claire said, her voice as casual as if she were ordering coffee. The employee's eyes lit up, and he immediately led us to a display. I feigned wide-eyed wonder, turning the phone over and over in my hands, letting out little gasps of awe. Claire just stood beside me, watching quietly. Her expression was strange. It wasn't regret or impatience. It was something I couldn't decipher. A mixture of tenderness and guilt. Keep acting, I thought. Let's see how long you can keep it up. Honey, isn't this a little too much? I said, holding the phone out to her, my face a perfect mask of husbandly concern. It's over $1,500. Maybe we should just get something more reasonable. This was her exit ramp. If she took it, I was ready to explode. We'll take this one, Claire said, not even glancing at the phone. She pulled her wallet out of her purse. We'll pay in full. The deep purple, please. I froze. The employee blinked. Then his smile grew even wider. Of course, ma'am. Right this way. The whole transaction took less than 5 minutes. Claire swiped her card and signed the screen without a moment's hesitation. I was still in a daze when the sleek, white box was placed in my hands. She actually bought it? $1,599. That was more than she supposedly made in a month. How could that not hurt? As we walked out of the store, the phone felt like a hot coal in my hands. Claire, where did you get that kind of money? I finally asked. I got my year-end bonus, she said, her voice light. Your bonus? That little firm you work for gives out bonuses like that. The words slipped out before I could stop them. It was the wrong thing to say. It wasn't something her clueless husband would know. Claire stopped walking and turned to me, her eyes narrowed slightly. How do you know it's a little firm? My heart skipped a beat. I just assumed. You're always complaining about how cheap your boss is. I stammered, quickly changing the subject. Hey, you know what? To thank you, my treat. Let's go see a movie. I grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the theater, my mind racing. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. In our previous life, we saved every penny. A purchase over $50 required a week of deliberation. Could my being reborn have changed things? Or was her secret stash of money so vast that this was just pocket change to her? I couldn't focus on the movie. In the dark, Claire seemed completely absorbed, laughing at all the right moments. I stole glances at her. The dim light softened the lines of her face. She looked thinner than I remembered, with faint dark circles under her eyes. Had she not been sleeping well at her other home? The image of that family portrait flashed in my mind, and the anger flared up again. This wasn't enough. I had to up the ante. When the movie ended, I suggested dinner at a fancy restaurant. Our anniversary is coming up, I said, inventing a plausible excuse. Let's celebrate early. I chose a place I'd heard about from a wealthy acquaintance. It was notoriously overpriced, all style and no substance, with a reputation for being a breakup spot because couples would inevitably fight over the bill. There was no way she could stay calm through this. The restaurant overlooked the river, all crystal chandeliers and hushed tones. A waiter in a tux handed us leather-bound menus. I pushed one pointedly toward Claire. You order, honey. There were no prices listed, just a small line at the bottom. Please consult your server for market price inquiries. The oldest trick in the book. My friend had complained that a simple meal for two had set him back nearly $3,000. I waited for the panic to set in on her face. Instead, she scanned the menu, then looked at the waiter. "We'll have the Wagyu steak, medium rare, and the seared foie gras start, and a bottle of the '09 Screaming Eagle." The waiter did a subtle double take. "The 2009 Screaming Eagle, ma'am?" "That's right," Claire confirmed. I sucked in a breath. Screaming Eagle? Did she have any idea what that cost? Did she think it was $2 chuck? My heart felt like it was doing gymnastics in my chest. This wasn't just making her spend money. This was setting on fire. "Claire," I whispered, tugging her sleeve. Isn't that wine a little much? We can just get a glass of something." "It's fine." She smiled at me, a strange, indulgent look in her eyes. "I feel like celebrating tonight." "You feel like celebrating?" I wanted to scream. The plan was to make you miserable, not to watch you play the part of a billionaire heiress. The meal was agony. Every bite of steak tasted like cardboard. Every sip of that wine felt like swallowing liquid debt. Claire, on the other hand, seemed to be having a wonderful time, telling me funny stories about her coworkers. I kept a pained smile plastered on my face, internally cursing her and Leo 1,000 times over. That bastard must have given her a fortune for her to be this reckless. When the check came, the waiter placed it discreetly on the table. I caught a glimpse of the total, a number so long it made me dizzy. $21,450. I nearly had a heart attack. Claire didn't even blink. She just pulled another card from her wallet. A sleek, black card I'd never seen before. No bank logo, just a series of embossed silver numbers. The American Express Centurion card. The black card. The waiter's professional demeanor cracked. His eyes widened, and his posture became almost reverential as he took the card and practically sprinted to the register. I stared at that card. That wasn't a debit card from a local credit union. "Claire, just how many secrets were you keeping?" On the ride home, I was silent. I felt like a clown. My grand, elaborate revenge had turned into her personal shopping spree. Instead of making her feel the pain, I had just facilitated a night of extravagant fun for her, while I sat there looking like a country bumpkin who'd never seen a price tag with a comma in it. The jarring contrast between the glitzy restaurant and our shabby apartment only fueled my frustration. What was her game? Why live in a mansion with one life and then slum it with me in this dump? Was this some kind of thrill for her? "Ethan, why are you so quiet?" Claire asked as she slipped off her heels. "It's nothing," I mumbled. "Are you upset about how much I spent tonight?" I didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. She sighed and wrapped her arms around my waist from behind, just as I had done to her that morning. "Ethan, before, we didn't have money, so I was careful. But things are better now. I don't want you to feel like you're missing out anymore." Her voice was soft. "You're my husband. The money I make is for you to spend." My body went rigid. She sounded so sincere, so convincing. If I didn't know the truth, if I hadn't seen that picture, I would have broken down in tears of gratitude. But now, her words just made me sick. "The money you make is for your other man and your other children, isn't it? A little bit spent on me is just hush money." I gently pried her hands off me and turned to face her. "Claire, a friend of mine, is in some trouble. He needs some cash to keep his business afloat." I was wondering. This was my trump card. Buying things, fine dining, that was spending. But lending money was different, especially a large sum to a friend she'd never met. This would have to set off alarm bells. The second she hesitated or started asking questions, I would pounce, accusing her of not trusting me, of reducing our marriage to a transaction. I was going to shatter her facade once and for all. "How much does he need?" she asked. $50,000. I threw out a number I was certain she would refuse. For a family like US, 50 grand was an astronomical sum. I braced myself for her shock, her anger, her inevitable rejection. Then I would deliver my killer line. "What? You could buy a $20,000 bottle of wine, but you can't help my friend? What am I to you?" I stared at her, waiting. Claire was silent for a long moment. She just looked at me, her expression unreadable. "Huh, the act is finally over," I thought, a cruel smile almost breaking free. "Okay." The single word, spoken softly, landed like a thunderclap. "Give me his account number. I'll wire it from the bank when I go to work tomorrow," she said. I thought I'd misheard. "What? What did you say?" I said okay, she repeated, her voice as calm as if she were deciding on breakfast. "Your friend is in trouble. Of course we should help." My head was spinning. $50,000. Just like that? She didn't ask who the friend was, what his business was, when he could pay it back. Nothing. She just agreed. This made no sense. Even a multimillionaire wouldn't be so casual about lending $50,000. You don't want to ask what it's for. I asked, my voice thin. I trust you. She looked me right in the eye. You're my husband, Ethan. I trust your judgment. Your friends are my friends. Her gaze was so clear, so unwavering, that for a split second, I actually felt a pang of guilt. I didn't have a friend who needed money. The $50,000 was a lie, a trap I'd invented to expose her. And now she'd call my bluff. Where was I supposed to find a bank account to receive this money? Well, it's not that urgent. I backpedaled. Let me talk to him again. Maybe he found another way. Money problems are always urgent, she insisted. Just text me the account number. I'll take care of it first thing in the morning. Don't keep him waiting. She turned and went into the bathroom, leaving me standing alone in the living room, completely stunned. My entire plan had blown up in my face. I felt like a soldier charging the enemy with a bomb, only for the enemy to hand me a lighter and helpfully light the fuse. Now the bomb was ticking in my hands, and I had nowhere to throw it. I didn't sleep that night. Lying next to Claire's steady breathing, I tossed and turned, my mind a tangled mess. She seemed completely unbothered, sleeping soundly. I started to question everything. Was it possible my memories were wrong? Was the family portrait, the note, all just a grief-induced hallucination? No, impossible. The pain had been too real. I could still feel the plushness of the carpet in that house, still see the adoration in Leo's eyes as he looked at Claire in that photo, could still remember the radiant, genuine joy on her face, a smile I had never seen before. There was only one explanation. $50,000 was nothing to her. Her secret fortune was far larger than I had ever imagined. My hatred didn't subside. It intensified. She would give that kind of money to a stranger, no questions asked, but she was content to let us live in this hovel. What did she think I was? A pet that needed to be placated with expensive toys? The next morning, I stumbled out of bed with dark circles under my eyes. Claire had breakfast ready. Did you get the account number? She asked. Grit my teeth. I gave her the number for my own savings account, the one with a few $100s of royalty payments in it. There was no turning back now. I'd figure out an excuse to give the money back later. Got it, she said, jotting it down on a piece of paper and tucking it into her purse. I'm off to work. After she left, I sat at the table, my appetite gone. I grabbed my old laptop and started digging into Leo. In my previous life, I'd been too consumed by grief to investigate the man. Now, I would uncover everything. Leo Sterling, 45, CEO of Sterling Holdings, a titan in real estate and private equity. Net worth in the billions. There were dozens of articles about his business acumen, but his personal life was intensely private. Married, with a son and daughter, twins. His wife never appeared in public. The age matched. The children matched. I stared at a photo of him from a business journal. Confident, handsome, the spitting image of the man from the photograph. I slammed the laptop shut. The proof was irrefutable. At 3:03 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from my bank. A direct deposit of $50,000 has been credited to your savings account, ending in XXXX. Your new balance is $50, 628.50. My hand started to shake as I stared at all those zeros. She actually did it. 50 grand, transferred without a second thought. The money felt like a brand on my soul. What was I supposed to do now? Give it back and admit my plan had failed? Keep it and try to explain where it went? I paced the tiny apartment like a caged animal. I couldn't let it go. I had to see it again. I had to go back to that house, to confirm it all, to find more evidence. I found the address I had scrawled down in my last life and called an Uber. The house was in a gated community in the wealthy suburbs, quiet and exclusive. I told the guard I was visiting Claire Miller at her address, and to my shock, he waved me through. She must have put my name on the visitor list. How thoughtful. I stood before the familiar front door, my heart pounding. I took a breath and punched in a code on the keypad. My birthday. The lock clicked open. I pushed the door open and was hit by the same scent I remembered. A faint mix of dust and expensive potpourri. Everything was exactly the same. The designer furniture, the art on the walls, the glittering chandelier. And there on the wall was the photograph. Claire, Leo, the two kids. I walked to the desk. The note from my last life was gone. In its place was a thick, printed manuscript. I picked it up. The title page read, Echoes of the Abyss, by C. Blackwood. C. Blackwood? Who was that? I started flipping through the pages, and a cold dread washed over me. This was the sci-fi novel I had been outlining for years. The one I'd only ever told Claire about. My concept was just a rough sketch, barely 10,000 words. This manuscript was over 200,000. The prose was polished, the plot intricate, a universe beyond what my simple outline had imagined. But the core story, the characters, the world, it was all mine. What the hell was going on? Did she sell my idea to this C. Blackwood? Fighting down a surge of fury, I rummaged through the desk drawers. I found a file folder. Inside was a contract. Client, Starlight Publishing. Author, C. Blackwood. Legal name, Claire Miller. It was a publishing and film rights agreement for Echoes of the Abyss. Signing bonus, $2 million. Film option, $5 million. My mind went completely blank. C. Blackwood was Claire. She was the rising star of the sci-fi world, the reclusive genius author everyone was talking about. It was impossible. She was a bookkeeper. She could barely type without looking at the keys. I sank into the desk chair, the world spinning around me. So this house, she bought it with her own money? The designer clothes, the fancy car. It was all hers. Then, what about Leo? The children? My hand trembled as I picked up the framed photograph. I turned it over. Scrawled on the back in elegant handwriting were the words, To my favorite sister and my future brother-in-law, congratulations on the wedding. Your favorite pain in the ass, Leo. Photo taken 10 years ago. Sister, brother-in-law, Leo. Was her brother? I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. The family portrait that had tormented me, that had fueled a decade of resentment, wasn't evidence of an affair. It was a wedding gift from her brother. Those twins weren't her secret children. They were her children's children, my nephew and niece. And the note? I'm so tired. I can't live this double life anymore. If I could do it all over, I never would have chosen this path. I suddenly remembered a scene from the manuscript. The protagonist, a deep cover agent, exhausted and on the verge of breaking, writes those exact words in her journal. It wasn't a suicide note. It was a line from her goddamn novel. What had I done? In my last life, I had destroyed myself over a complete and utter misunderstanding. I had hated her, resented her, and after she died, I had wanted to desecrate her memory. And all the while, my wife, my Claire, had been silently protecting my fragile ego. She was afraid that I, the struggling writer, would be humiliated to learn that my wife was a literary genius. She was afraid that I, the man who could barely make rent, would have his pride shattered if he knew she was earning millions. So she hid it all. She pretended. She lived with me in that crappy apartment, ate cheap takeout, and wore clothes from Target, all while secretly building an empire that could have sheltered us both. And I, the reborn fool, had concocted this pathetic, cruel game of revenge. I made her buy a $2,000 phone. She bought it. I took her to a $20,000 dinner. She paid for it. I asked her for $50,000. She gave it. And while I was gloating, thinking I was making her bleed, the look in her eyes must have been one of pity, of indulgence, of heartbreak. She wasn't heartbroken over the money. She was heartbroken for her husband, the man she saw as a brilliant artist trapped by circumstance, who was now using these clumsy, hurtful games to claw back some sense of control. That $50,000 transfer wasn't a victory. It was a slap in the face. I covered my face with my hands, and the tears I'd held back for a decade finally came, hot and shameful. I stayed in the house for hours, until the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the expensive rugs. I walked through every room like a ghost. In the walk-in closet, a row of men's suits hung waiting, all in my size, the tag still on. The study had a glass display case filled with everything I had ever published, from tiny articles in local papers to my self-published novels, all carefully laminated and arranged. Taped to the door of the Sub-Zero fridge was a sticky note. Ethan hates cilantro and ginger. Allergic to shellfish. What I thought was a betrayal was just a love too deep for me to comprehend. I pulled out my phone and stared at the bank notification. My face burned with shame. I was a pathetic clown in a tragedy of my own making. How could I ever face her? Tell her I'd come back from the dead only to plot against her because of a stupid misunderstanding? She would think I was insane. As darkness fell, I left the house and returned to our apartment. For the first time, our tiny, cramped home felt warm. I stepped inside and smelled steak cooking. She'd remembered her promise. I stood in the kitchen doorway and watched her, my throat tight. "You're back," she said, turning with a smile. "Go wash up. Dinner's almost ready." Her smile was normal, completely unchanged. She had no idea where I'd been, what I'd discovered. I nodded and went to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face again and again. "Ethan, you absolute bastard. You'll never be able to make this up to her." At the table, she put the biggest piece of steak on my plate. "Eat up. I got a really good cut today." I kept my head down, shoveling food into my mouth as tears dripped silently into my mashed potatoes. "What's wrong?" she asked, noticing. "Is it not good?" "No, it's delicious," I said, looking up with a smile that felt more like a grimace. "It's the best I've ever had." "Then have some more," she said, adding another piece to my plate. That was it. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I put down my fork, stood up, and wrapped my arms around her from behind, holding on tight. "Claire," I choked out. "I'm sorry." Her body went stiff. Her fork clattered onto her plate. "What's going on? Why are you apologizing?" "I'm so sorry," I said, burying my face in the crook of her neck, breathing in her familiar scent. "For everything. I'm so sorry." I didn't tell her I was reborn. I didn't tell her I knew her secret. I just kept repeating those two words over and over again. She was quiet for a long time. Then, she gently patted my back. "You're a fool, Ethan. We're married. You never have to be sorry." In that moment, I made a vow. This time, I wasn't going to be a struggling writer anymore. I was going to be the man she deserved. I was going to stand beside her, and I was going to heal every single wound my pride had ever inflicted on her. The next day, everything changed. I deleted my old manuscript, stopped wasting time on video games, and got up at dawn. I took the $50,000, added my own meager savings, and opened a brokerage account. In my last life, I remembered the next 10 years of the stock market. Not every detail, but I knew which tech startups were about to become giants. I didn't need to be a billionaire. I just needed enough to give her the freedom to be herself, openly and without apology. I started studying finance obsessively, sleeping only 4 hours a night. Claire noticed immediately. "What's gotten into you? You're like a man possessed," she said one night, placing a glass of warm milk on my desk. "I just realized I can't keep drifting," I said, taking her hand. "Is the novel not going well?" she asked, her voice soft with concern. "It's okay. Take your time. I believe in you. You don't have to worry about money." I knew she meant it. "It's not the novel," I said, looking her in the eyes. "Claire, just wait for me. I'm going to give you a good life. I promise." She stared at me for a second, and her eyes welled up. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll wait." She didn't know that the good life I promised wasn't about wealth. It was about me finally being worthy of her love. I used the $50,000 as my seed money. Every trade felt like walking a tightrope. Even though I knew the outcomes, the daily volatility was terrifying. This wasn't just money. It was her trust, her love. I couldn't fail. 1 month later, the $50,000 had become $2 million. I pulled every cent out of the market. The first thing I did was drive back to that gated community and buy the house right next to hers. I had the deed expedited, putting both of our names on it. That night, when Claire came home, I handed her the folder with a flourish. A gift for my beautiful wife. She took it, and when she saw the address and our names, she froze. Where did you get the money for this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "That 50 grand you gave me. I invested it," I said, trying to sound as casual as she had when she'd said, "I got my year-end bonus." "You invested it?" Her eyes were wide with disbelief. "When did you learn how to trade stocks?" "That was $50,000. How could you be so reckless?" "Because I trust you," I said, throwing her own words back at her. "You're my wife. I knew any money from you would have good luck attached." Seeing the stunned look on her face gave me a jolt of satisfaction. But it was a sweet, shared victory this time. "Come on, let me show you our new home." We drove to the house. Standing in front of the two identical mansions, side by side, Claire looked completely bewildered. I unlocked the door to our new, empty house. It was just a shell, waiting to be filled. "From now on, this is our home," I said, hugging her from behind. We can decorate it however you want. She didn't speak, but I felt her shoulders begin to shake. A warm tear fell onto the back of my hand. Ethan, she choked out. You know, don't you? My heart clenched. Know what? I feigned ignorance. Don't play dumb. She turned in my arms, her eyes red. How did you know about the house next door? And how did you suddenly become a stock market genius? I was silent. She was too smart. The flimsy lies wouldn't hold up. I didn't know what to say. Then, she asked the question that shattered my world. Did you come back to? I felt the floor drop out from under me. How could she possibly know that term? Unless a wild, impossible idea bloomed in my mind. What? What do you mean? My voice shook. A sad smile touched Claire's lips. I died once, Ethan. In that car crash. As I was dying, all I could think was that if I had another chance, I would tell you everything. I wouldn't hide anymore, even if you hated me for it. And then I woke up, a year before the crash. The first thing I did was move all my money into one account to give you the card. I thought this time I could fix everything. But then you started acting so strangely. You wanted the most expensive phone, the fanciest dinner. You asked for all that money. I thought you'd heard a rumor that you were testing me. So I gave you everything you wanted to show you that everything I had was yours. It wasn't until today, when you bought this house, that I finally understood. We're the same. She looked at me, her eyes boring into my soul. You died too, didn't you, Ethan? I stared at her, my mouth open, but no sound came out. The world seemed to stop. She was reborn too. We were both trying, in our own clumsy ways, to fix the past. My twisted revenge was, to her, a cry for help. Her attempts at honesty were, to me, a masterclass in deception. We were two fools stumbling in the dark, heading in the same direction, but unable to see each other. Yes, I finally managed to say, my voice raw. I saw the picture, the note. You thought I cheated on you, she finished for me, her expression a mix of pain and wry humor. Ethan, you really are an idiot. Yes, I said, stepping forward and pulling her into a desperate hug. I'm the biggest idiot in the world. We held each other in that empty house, clinging to one another as if we could merge into one being. All the misunderstandings, all the pain, melted away, replaced by the overwhelming relief of a second chance. Leo is my brother, she mumbled into my chest. The twins are his kids. I know. The house was for you. A surprise for when you finally sold your book. I know. The note was a line from my novel. I know that too. And you still put me through all that. She punched my chest weakly. I wanted you to feel the pain. I admitted, my face flushing. Oh, I felt it, she said, tilting her head back to look at me, her eyes shining. I felt so bad for my idiot husband, torturing himself with his own imagination for so long. I looked at her, and I couldn't help it. I leaned down and kissed her. It wasn't a kiss of passion, but of pure, unadulterated love and relief. We had both been given a second chance. We had both loved each other all along. That was a jackpot bigger than any stock market win. After that, our life hit fast forward. We moved into Claire's fully furnished mansion next door. The first time I walked in as its rightful occupant, I just had to laugh at the infamous family portrait. When Claire's brother, Leo, found out I had based a decade of resentment on that photo, he laughed so hard he fell on the floor. He stopped laughing when I chased him across the lawn. That $50,000 became the seed money for our joint enterprise. With my knowledge of the future and her brilliant mind, our wealth grew exponentially. I started my own venture capital firm, investing in the startups I knew would one day rule the world. And Claire stepped out from behind her pseudonym. At her first book launch, she stood on stage in a stunning dress, no longer a quiet bookkeeper, but the queen of her genre. I sat in the front row, my eyes wet with tears. This was my wife. This was who she was always meant to be. During the Q&A, a reporter asked a pointed question. Ms. Blackwood, your husband is here tonight. What does he do? Does he ever feel pressure, being married to someone so successful? The room went quiet. I tensed, ready to have security escort the man out. But Claire just smiled. She looked right at me. My husband is the most amazing man I've ever met, she said, her voice clear and steady. He's the man who laminated every tiny article I ever wrote, who remembers all my favorite foods, and who is willing to believe any crazy story I told him. There would be no C. Blackwood without him. As for pressure, she added with a sly grin, I think he handles it just fine. After all, he's the one who controls all our finances. The room erupted in laughter. I sat there, laughing with them, tears streaming down my face. Life was perfect, almost too perfect. Sometimes I'd wake up from nightmares of the last life, of her cold body, of my crushing loneliness. I'd cling to her, and only the warmth of her skin and the sound of her breathing could calm me down. It's over, she'd whisper, holding me. We're okay. We had a new wedding, a real one this time, on a private island with everyone we loved. I cried like a baby. Later, I got Leo blackout drunk and drew a turtle on his face with a Sharpie. I can hold a grudge. We traveled the world, seeing everything we'd missed. I finished my first successful novel. It wasn't sci-fi. It was a love story. I call it my favorite fool. It became a bestseller. We had children of our own, twins, a boy and a girl. Life was a dream. Why do you think it happened? I asked Claire one day. Why us? She thought for a moment. Maybe God is a gamer. He saw we got a bad ending and gave us a chance to reload a save file. She was right. We had reloaded. And this time, we were getting the perfect score. But life always has one last trick up its sleeve. On our anniversary, I came home early with flowers and a cake. The house was empty. Claire's phone went straight to voicemail. A cold, familiar dread crept over me. I drove around the city like a madman, checking all our old spots. Nothing. As darkness fell, my phone finally rang. A strange number. Is this Ethan Miller? A man's voice asked. This is Sergeant Davies with the city police. Your wife, Claire Miller, has been involved in an incident. We need you to come down to the precinct. My world fell apart. I don't remember the drive. I just remember running into the station and seeing her sitting on a bench, pale and dusty, but in one piece. Ethan, she ran to me. I crushed her in a hug, unable to speak. I thought you. I'm okay, she soothed. Just a little scrape. The officer cleared his throat. Mr. Miller? This afternoon, a truck lost control and jumped the curb. Your wife was right there. She pushed a pregnant woman out of the way. She took a tumble, but if it wasn't for her, that woman and her baby. I didn't hear the rest. I just stared at my wife, at the hero she had always been. The accident in my last life. It wasn't an accident. She had died saving someone. And I, in my selfish grief, had never even bothered to find out the truth. I just hated her. I pulled her out of the station into a light drizzle. I wrapped my coat around her shoulders and held her close. Claire, I said, my voice thick. Yeah, next life, it's my turn to save you. She froze. Then a slow smile spread across her face as tears streamed down her cheeks. Okay, we stood in the rain, smiling at each other. There wouldn't be a next life. We had taken 2 lifetimes to learn how to love each other properly, and that was more than enough. Epilogue a few years later. In an interview for my new book, the host joked, everyone says your wife must have saved the galaxy in a past life to deserve a man like you. I smiled, looking at Claire in the front row. You have it backwards, I said into the microphone. I'm the one who saved the galaxy. Because my wife, she already did it the life before that. The audience laughed and applauded. Claire just shook her head, a secret smile playing on her lips as she texted her brother. That new AI startup. Go all in. Don't tell him. Leo replied instantly. Sis, how much are you still hiding? Does he know this is actually your 3rd time around? Claire smiled, typing back. A little mystery keeps things interesting. Besides, it's nice to let him think he's the one in control, don't you think? End.